You mentioned at the beginning that you've had a long-standing interest in the case of the Amityville hauntings. I mean, can you remember what it was when you first became aware of it, and what was it about that really kind of triggered your imagination?
I think it was the mesh of personalities that are involved in this story that really attracted me and held my attention over the years. Certainly, looking at Danny, he's a very arresting personality, but you look at them, and while the other family members of the Lutz family may not be as intense as Danny is, they're all interesting in their own ways, and we have yet to hear from the other two siblings, Christopher and Melissa, on their experiences. And respecting their privacy, of course, not involving their direct experiences in this film. This was involved just on Danny. So that was, my interest was trying to uncover something. I wouldn't have done a documentary on Amityville, even though I had a passionate interest in it, if it hadn't been something that was groundbreaking and something that was going to, present a new perspective. So that was kind of my interest, is doing that,
So was it when you were introduced to Danny that the idea for the film came about, or had you intended before that you were going to make a film and you were kind of searching for that angle?
Well, it never was something that, it didn't start as we were going to make a film project. Actually, Danny wanted to do a book about it. And I, saw my website, which is pretty thorough and a kind of, like I mentioned, a creative presentation of the facts and the documentation and kind of unbiased perspective. And so through this, he was, I think, unthreatened by it. I went to New York and I met with him in 2009. And, Christopher, his brother, has come out in various venues and said a few things. And, he's a rather calm and collected, kind of reserved personality. So I was maybe expecting something similar. And I was very wrong with that. I spent 5 days in New York with Danny for the first time and was very taken back by what I was hearing, but knew that what I was hearing was something definitely, as I mentioned, groundbreaking. So,
and I think there's a kind of level of intimacy in what he shares and the footage that you have. I mean, particularly the stuff with him talking to his therapist. So I feel he must have really had a lot of trust in you. I mean, how did you kind of build that relationship with him?
That was a difficult thing. I mean, obviously, someone coming forward to talk, in a therapy session is not something that many people would agree to. It was actually something that was difficult to organize because most therapists won't even want to go on camera with their subjects and talk about this. But it was something that, it was a relationship that had to be developed. I mean, it wasn't something that Danny, was he could have done this, as he mentioned, keeping his mouth shut. He could have done this 25, 30 years ago, but he didn't. And he's now coming, nearly 40 years later out of the blue to talk about it. And there's obviously quite a bit of pent-up anger. Did anybody want to add anything here? Sorry, it's just...
I think part of the reason that Danny connected with Eric, and myself not having come from the world that Eric did, I didn't help create the website. Danny really connected with the fact that Eric was open to hearing what he had to say. And he wasn't coming into it. He came into it with a lot of knowledge beforehand, but he wasn't coming into it with this overarching idea that Danny's lying or this isn't something that, Eric wanted to approach it objectively, and that's what we wanted to do with the film as well. And I like to think that we were successful with that. But I do think that part of why the relationship that Danny and Eric have worked so well is because Eric approached the relationship with a very open mind. And, you want to talk about how you first started with the project?
Sure. I'll try to keep this brief. Basically, like Andrea mentioned, I started the website and we developed the relationship to do this project, etc. And it wasn't something that it wasn't an easy thing. The film went through various forms in post-production. We were trying to explore different storylines that we ended up taking out, etc., that we thought would add different insight into how this whole relationship built upon itself. But Danny, again, is such an arresting personality that it ended up being the figure point that everybody wants to hear his story. So, it was a challenge to almost keep it on that objective level because there are so many questions affiliated with this there are so many, you want to sit down and say, all right, are you, this is crazy what you're saying. Is this, you really believe this? But my opinion is that, I won't say that I believe everything, and I'm not saying I don't believe everything. I believe that he believes what he's saying. And I can leave it, that's all I can say. So it's up for grabs at this point. And no one can prove or disprove anything that happened to the Lutzes. They themselves are the only witnesses to their encounters. And there's been very many wild, as I wrote a line in there, wild conspiracy theories of people, creating storylines and fraudulent witnesses coming forward in various venues. And it's just like a never-ending battle, like in various online forums, etc. So I tried to kind of keep away from a lot of that and just stick with the facts. So that was it was a big challenge to do that.
Does anyone have any questions?
It's Father Ray.
Yes.
That yeah, you're right. It's not proven to my knowledge that Father Ray has passed away. I believe it's been said that he passed away in '89, but that's not verified. But yeah, no, he cannot be located. So of course that was one person that we'd all like to talk to. But no, I haven't. No one has spoken to him. There's actually an interview done in 1979 with the In Search Of program where he was on camera, in black. But he did say, and it's actually interesting. You can go to AmityvilleFiles.com to see that. Right. Yeah. So, but where he states that he heard a voice say, "Get out," and that he felt a disembodied hand slap him, and which verifies what Jay Anson wrote in the book and what George and Kathy have said years following this. So. Yeah, I mean, not speaking for him, obviously. Yeah. I know that he's happy to have unburdened himself of getting this off his chest, which was kind of his modus operandi in doing this entire film. I don't think it was something that he generally wanted to do, but I think it's also like a fatal attraction for him and for all of. I definitely think that for the younger sibling, Christopher, as well, just because of his being involved in various television programs, etc. But Danny's reaction is that he's happy he's done it, and overall he's pleased with the final product. Even though you notice he's not here, he doesn't really plan on attending the screenings. I won't say that he won't at any point. We're getting him to do a show in New York City at the beginning of November. So we'll see if he makes it. But no, I don't. He's not necessarily wanting to come out in the limelight. I think he told me that this was all he wanted. He wanted to do this one time. About Amityville, I think I've spent myself on Amityville for the time being. Although I have some other tricks up my sleeve, but let's let 10 years go by or something, so I don't become the Amityville guy myself, or Amityville kid. That's true. That's true. So but yes, I mean, in documentary, I adored the craft of documentary, and I've learned so much on the making of this film. This is my first feature film, so this has been a big learning process for me, but also kind of an initiation into having the most interesting, most difficult subject to tackle, not only from the perspective of the topic, but from the person himself. Having him in that chair talking to me for 8 hours was not an easy, while he was willing, what you saw there at the end of the interview with him getting up after the lie detector question, which I did not mean as a threatening, I wasn't trying to say that he was lying. That was literally the end of the interview. He got up and left. And we did have words in the parking lot afterwards. So, but no, I have many more projects I'm currently working on that I actually want to explore many of the lessons I've learned through the craft of the process of making this film. So, what happens to people who go through unexplainable events and have to live with that.